Thank you, Trace. Well, TikTok, get ready for the shock. 80 hours to get something done, or it all comes crashing down. All bets are off, but it is looking more and more like come late Monday night, all lights are out. Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and you just heard the president, and this just in. A government shutdown now looks on because Republicans and Democrats are further apart than ever. The Senate voting to keep the government funded for now, but stripping out the House's measure to defund the president's health care law. So what does the House do, and how fast can it do it? And if time runs out and we're looking at a shutdown, how long does one last? We have got you covered with Chad Bergam in Washington on the scramble to avoid this. Nicole Pedalides in New York on how Wall Street is preparing for this. Dr. Hal Sharz on how the president's health care law is factoring into this. We begin with Chad in the belly of the beast. Chad.
I tell you, it's going to be an interesting couple of 12 to 24 hours here. We're waiting to find out from the House Republican leadership what the next step is. We're told that they're going to have a big meeting, a conference meeting around noontime tomorrow. But I've been told by a couple of sources that it's possible the House might not even vote on a bill. The scenario we keep hearing is a bill that would fund the government, but would delay the implementation of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, for an entire year. This is something that people have been pushing. That seems to be unacceptable to the Senate. So regardless of when the House of Representatives moves, whether it be sometime tomorrow or Sunday, they kick it back to the Senate. And Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid has a very special tool in his toolkit. He can basically just flush this back to the House of Representatives without even acting. He can table it to kill it. And this is a way to prevent Mike Lee or Marco Rubio or Ted Cruz or anybody from getting up on the Senate floor and filibustering. And that would be the dispensation by the Senate. I was told by a senior Democratic aide in the Senate today that if there are any changes to the bill that the Senate just kicked back over to the House, that it greatly enhances the chances of a government shutdown on Monday night.
So let's say the Senate is saying, all right, defunding the health care law ain't going to happen. Delaying the health care law ain't going to happen. Is the middle ground that they might be whispering delaying another provision, let's say the employee mandate, as big a bugaboo as that is, delaying that's something that would satisfy Republicans' desire to slow down this thing, even in the face of a Democratic Senate rejecting slowing down the whole thing?
There's one possibility on that, certainly, but Harry Reid, the majority leader, has made it clear if they do anything to Obamacare, that's a non-starter. One thing that a lot of Republicans in the House would like to do would be to get rid of the subsidy or the contribution for lawmakers and also for staff. But there's a big concern about brain drain. A lot of members are saying, look, I have sick relatives. I have staffers, who are younger and can't afford this, or they have sick relatives. So there's a lot of internal strife, even though publicly people are speaking in favor of that. The chances of that don't seem to be as great. I tell you, the one way to fix this, though, and this doesn't seem to be the scenario because John Boehner pretty much ruled it out, would be to take the clean CR, the bill that the Senate passed today, and pass it with some Republicans and a big majority of Democrats. But I talked earlier with the minority whip, Steny Hoyer, and he said there has been no outreach from the Republican side to him to try to bring some votes for that scenario, Neil.
What a mess. All right. Thank you, buddy. Chad Bergam. Now to Wall Street. Stocks taking a hit today. The Dow having its first down week in 4 weeks. So how worried is Wall Street about the prospect of a government shutdown? Fox Business Network's Nicole Pedalides really in the thick of all of this on the New York Stock Exchange. Nicole, what are you hearing if this drags out? That, in other words, not only do we get a shutdown, but it might be a protracted one.
Okay, so the idea here is that most of the traders don't believe that there will be a shutdown. They think that it's political theater and ultimately that they will get it right and in the 11th hour they will make some key decisions. However, let's take the other side and say that that does happen and ultimately we don't have this working right. So what you see is there are people who get nervous about this and they talk about the fact that you can start to see economic activity dropping, even a recession. The Fed, of course, would keep long-term, the rates that we talk about, right? They talk about raising rates at some point, that they'll keep those rates low at these levels for an extended period, even beyond the extended period that we've heard of. So this obviously would not bode well for the U.S. economy at all. When you talk to these guys on Wall Street, Prime Executions put out a great note today saying something to this effect, just talking about the fact that it's not good for our economy. It's not good for consumer confidence. However, people seem to be less, but they're not believing that this is going to happen this time around, Neil, because Google Trends, that's another thing that they were talking about. People aren't looking up U.S. debt or U.S. default or debt ceiling. They really believe it's a lot of political theater, and that in the end, they'll make some decisions. They may not be good ones, but they'll make some decisions ultimately.
Yeah, this gets to be a bad thing that those expectations aren't realized. But thank you, Nicole Petalides at the New York Stock Exchange. Well, Senator Ted Cruz calling this a major
Democrats
healthcare threat.
Stood united in refusing to listen to the American people. Obamacare is the biggest job killer in this country. Millions of Americans are hurting. Millions of Americans are struggling to find a job, are being forced into part-time work, are seeing their health insurance premiums skyrocket, and are seeing their health care threatened.
All right, those are the guys they're calling the three amigos who were really pushing this out, and that is making the health care law itself and defunding it of the primary sort of juice to get this thing coupled with any piece of legislation they can find to make sure that they get their way and get this health care law shut down. Dr. Hal Scherz, I couldn't agree more with their strategy, but I guess, Doctor, it's an uphill battle. Now, you're a pediatric urologist, and you know all the troubles that come with this law. But is this the vehicle you think that's going to derail it, or do you fear that it's still on?
I think it's still on, Neil, and this is on the track toward implementation. And my fear is that there are unexpected consequences that nobody anticipates. Everybody has been focusing right now on the money and on the politics. But I think the inside baseball information that many people want to know is what's really happening to people's ability to get health care. A couple of the things that have never even been talked about are with the exchanges, which are supposed to go live in just 4 days. There are absolutely no way that people are signing up knowing who the doctors are going to be on these panels. Nobody's even talked about that. So people are being asked to sign up without knowing which doctors are going to be on these panels. So
I know, and bosses have not gotten, updates on how they sell this to their employees or even guys like you. So that makes me think, Doctor, I know you're not a negotiator in the middle of this, that might be the easiest sort of middle ground here. Delay the implementation of these exchanges because almost everything else has been delayed.
Well, absolutely. And the only people who it hasn't been delayed for are the individual people who are being mandated to purchase insurance. And it's not ready. In fact, the employers who are wanting to sign up for health care are being told that they can't do it online, on computers. That's as I think Dan Henninger from the Wall Street Journal pointed out, that's the Achilles heel of this healthcare plan. They're not ready for prime time. So what's happening? They're being told that if they want to sign up, that they've got to do it by U.S. mail or by fax.
You're a doctor. You're in the front lines. Yesterday, the president said the reason why this health care law is running into the controversy that it is, and the negative press reviews is Fox News. We're trashing it, I guess. Then the other one today was Republicans are obstinately saying all the bad things about it. But you have seen the law. You have no political interest one way or the other. You've seen the law and you say it's a mess. Why?
Well, first of all, it's going to result in people not knowing where they're going to be able to get their health care from. So as I said with the exchanges, people are signing up. It's a leap of faith. They don't know who their doctors are going to be.
Well, the White House says, hey, just everyone take a chill pill. It will bear fruit. Everything will be fine, you say.
Well, I say no, that's not true. When we sign up as physicians for health care plans, for example, it takes a certain period of time to vet a doctor, to give them the credentials, go through the procedure that's necessary to say, yes, this doctor belongs in our plan, and we feel confident that they can take care of you. Well, that usually takes up to 6 months to go through, and they haven't even decided what doctors are going to be on these panels. So to be able to sign up for one of the Obama plans and not know who your doctors are, I think is an incredible leap of faith, and I think it's going to be a giant mess.
Man, oh man. All right, Doctor, thank you very much. We know you're a pretty busy guy. Meanwhile, the president just teeing off on this GOP. Take a look.
Republicans are so concerned with appeasing the Tea Party that they've threatened a government shutdown or worse unless I gut or repeal the Affordable Care Act. I said this yesterday. Let me repeat it. That's not going to happen.
All right, the message from the president, it's all the Republicans' fault now. They're the ones who are just, stomping their feet. Let's see if this woman is the South Dakota Republican Congresswoman, leading player in the Republican leadership in the House, Congresswoman Kristi Noem. Well, you heard what the president said, that you're the reason, or you Republicans are the reason why we're in this mess. What do you say?
You know, I listened to the president's speech, and I was just so surprised to hear a United States president be so eager to negotiate with Iran, who refers to America as Big Satan, yet refuses to come and even have a conversation with Congress. So the most I've heard the president speak is in front of the media on my TV in my office. So, Congressman, you always hear the back and forth from the president. Don't even think of linking anything to health care. That's not going to happen. Now, the president has delayed a number of provisions himself, including yesterday the online small business application. So that was, I think, the 7th major delay, to say nothing of hundreds and thousands of exemptions and special carve-outs. So he does seem to have done and been open in the past to this sort of thing. Do you think Republicans are open, if not to killing the health care law, maybe attaching a proviso that says you delay a key feature, let's say the individual mandate or something else like that? You know, we'll certainly have that conversation with the president. People talk a lot about the 40 times we've voted to change, defund, or repeal Obamacare. 7 of those now have become law because the president saw the validity in having those conversations. This is the perfect time to discuss reforms to that law because of the cost of that law to our federal government. The president talked extensively about our debt ceiling and our debt ceiling negotiations that he would not negotiate. This is the same guy that was a United States Senator that said it was a failure of leadership that continued putting dollars on the credit card, money that we borrow from other countries to pay our debt, and to let that go forward. So it's just a complete reversal by a man that right now I don't trust very many words that he's saying. Do you or do some of your Republican colleagues fear, Congresswoman, that whatever, the veracity of your argument, that the president will get the upper hand here? I mean, there's only one president. There are 435 of you in the House. There are 100 senators, and it's going to be very hard to trump him PR-wise, and that you might get the shorter end of a government shutdown stick. Does that concern you? Oh, absolutely. We don't run Washington, D.C. Republicans are 1/2 of 1/3 of government right now. The fact that the president wants to blame the Republicans in the House for all the problems that this country is facing is just wrong. And a good analogy in this situation, Neil, is that if kids went off to college, maxed out their credit cards, they'd come back to their parents and say, will you help me? Will you pay the bills? Well, absolutely, parents want to help their kids, but they're sure not going to hand them another credit card to just go max out. They're going to want some changes made. They're going to want to look at reforms, and that's the reasonable conversation that Republicans are trying to have in the House is, listen, we've got some bad trends going. We've got a president whose budget never balances into perpetuity. Why would we not talk about reforms that we can put into place or limit a bill that's going to add another $1.3 trillion worth of spending to our federal government? It's just common sense, and this president doesn't want to have any of it. There's going to be a shutdown, isn't there? I don't know. We're going to meet tomorrow at noon as House Republicans talk about the bill that we're getting back from the Senate, see what we can do to really make a difference for the American people, to give our kids a better future, because right now this president isn't interested in coming alongside us and helping us do that. Congresswoman Kristi Noem, thank you very much. Good seeing you again. Yeah, thanks for having me, Neil.